Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome back to another one of my videos. I am Blitz, and today I'm going to be talking about the AMX-30 prototype. Now, this tank is coming to the stores for the price tag of 10,000 gold, and in this video I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about the vehicle, with the armor profile, statistics, how to run it, where to run it, and of course, whether or not you should be sticking this tank in your garage. Looking at the statistics of this tank, you'll stumble across the damage per minute of 2,800. Which is definitely not bad, but you also have to remember a tank like the T55A is sitting at around 3,000, so you can be very easily out damage per minute in this tank. But the nice thing about it is that the standard penetration is very healthy at 232. But again, premium ammo only 263 millimeters of penetration, and when you compare that to a vehicle like the T55A that has like 270, and if you're running calibrated on that, it's going to go all the way up to 297. This tank cannot really penetrate an E100's turret, a Jagdpanzer superstructure. You're going to struggle against tanks that where you could normally load heat and just go right through them. You're not going to be able to do that in this vehicle. And as well, the high explosive rounds on this tank are nothing to brag about. When you're looking at a tank like the T55A or the T54, their high explosive does 420 average damage. And when you combine that with the excellent damage per minute they have, you tear into your enemy. But the AMX-30 only has 350 average damage, which is 40 higher than the standard ammo. So what I've noticed myself is that there's really no point to shoot the high explosive unless you're guaranteed a penetration, because half the time it's not going to penetrate, you're going to hit the tracks of somebody, and then you're going to do 30 damage, and if you do penetrate, well, you're only doing 40 more than normal. So definitely stay clear of the high explosive if you do run this tank. Down to the gun handling, with an aiming time of 1.9 seconds, you're easily going to be able to stop, shoot your enemies, snap them on the move, and that's one really nice thing about this tank. However, the dispersion value of 0.326 is going to make it very hard to snipe in this tank. However, I really don't notice that as a huge issue for me, because this isn't a tank you want to sit in the back of the map with. This isn't like a Leopard where you have really weak armor and you just want to cry in the back and sort of run like a tank destroyer or a support medium. This tank you can run up on the front line, you're going to do your job. So the dispersion really isn't that much of an issue when you do run this tank correctly. As well, this tank is paired with 10 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty much going to give it the ability to be flexible in any scenario, any ridgeline, or pretty much any map you do get stuck on, where a tank like the T55A would really struggle to come up against this vehicle using its gun depression. You're really not going to have that issue in this tank. Moving on to one of the most important topics for a medium tank, which is the mobility. Thankfully, this tank has a crazy ton of it. It can go 60 kilometers per hour forwards, and because it only weighs 33.07 tons, it has an effective power-to-weight ratio of 26.24, which means that, unlike most mediums where you might struggle climbing up hills or some really tough terrains, this tank is going to cruise along not even knowing it's on sand or anything like that. As well, it can turn at 65.61 degrees a second, which is among the top in its class, and it can go backwards at 23 kilometers per hour, which is definitely the fastest tank at tier 9 going in reverse. So it is a very quick tank, and when you combine that with the excellent gun depression it has, you can really start to think on why it is such a menacing tank on the battlefield. Moving on to the armor of this tank, you would probably think 33 tons is going to get you very light armor, but you can see it's actually pretty red on the front. But I will say the lower plate of this tank is only 70 millimeters thick, which means that every 152 millimeter cannon is easily going to be shooting high explosive right through the lower plate of the tank. As well, the side armor of this tank, only at 35 millimeters thick, really is not going to be stopping any rounds. Even if you're shooting at it while it's angling very aggressively, you're easily going to overmatch the tank and penetrate right through the side armor. But you can see the side is protected by 10 millimeters of spaced armor, and because of that you actually cannot penetrate the side of this tank with high explosive at all unless you're shooting at the very edge of the tank that's 30 millimeters thick. So that is one thing. If you do go up against this vehicle, make sure you're not shooting HE at the side of it. As well, the rear of the tank, only 30 millimeters thick, really isn't going to be stopping anything. And the rear of the turret at 40 millimeters, you can even shoot high explosive with that as well. But you can see the turret on this tank is pretty much entirely red. And that's because the gun mantlet on it is 400 millimeters, 500 millimeters thick. It is one of the strongest turrets in the entire game. And the reason the tank is so strong is because when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression and you can't shoot this weak hull armor, you're pretty much auto ricochets all over the top of this tank. The turret is impenetrable pretty much everywhere, even with tier 10 tank destroyers. And the only weak spot is a barely visible cupola sticking out on the edge of this tank. And I'd be willing to say that I would rather play against tier 10 mediums in this AMX30 prototype than I would in some of my own tier 10 tanks. And that's just how strong this tank really is in the armor profile, but you do need to use the gun depression, and that's one thing I cannot stress enough, is as you saw, the armor on this tank on the hull is pretty much butter thin. You're easily going to be getting right through it every single time. So if you don't know the maps and you're new to the game and you don't really understand how to work the ridgelines that well, you are not going to do well in this tank at all. It is just going to fall apart. This is definitely a skill-based tank and one of the most situational tanks if you can put it in a gun depression spot. On to the question of running this tank, the first thing is you definitely need to know pretty much every single map in the game. You can see on both of these replays here, I was always pushing my tank in a spot where I knew where the gun depression would work, and that's why the tank was doing so effective. You need to know all of the gun depression spots in a map, and there's more than one always on pretty much every single map, of course. So, like a game on Dead Rail, you can push this tank to the medium side and use your gun depression there, or you can also push it to the heavy side hill and use your gun depression really, really effectively, making your turret impenetrable on that hill as well, trying to brawl with the heavies. But you need to make these decisions, read the enemy lineup, and figure out where you're going to go, because this is a very easy tank to push on. As I said, the hull armor on it is very, very weak. So if you would take like an E100 or an E50M with a couple other mediums that are about to rush you because you pushed the wrong spot, it's not going to do well at all. It doesn't have a crazy amount of damage per minute, and the penetration on the premium ammo, if you're getting pushed on by a big bad heavy, really is not going to stand up that well against it, because 260 millimeters is barely getting through the lower plate of an E100. So it is a very hard tank to run, but if you figure it out, it is the best tank to run, honestly, in the entire tier 9. And as I said in the title of this video, I honestly feel this is the strongest tier 9 medium in the game. And in fact, I would do better running this tank than I probably would in any other tier 9 vehicle in my garage. To the main question of, is it worth 10,000 gold? Well, as I said before, if you're a newer player and you really don't understand all the maps yet, and you're still trying to learn team composition and reading a map and everything like that, and reading a lineup especially, I would definitely not suggest to pick up this tank, because you definitely have to know where you're going, what you're doing, and who you're going up against to do really well in this tank. And if you don't know any of that stuff and you're just learning the basics and you're thinking of getting a premium tank to earn a few credits, get you some free experience to go along the way, I would definitely suggest a tank like the IS-6, the Luva, some tier 8 premium that is going to hit the store in the future. But if you are a skilled player and you do know all the maps and you know everything like that, and you're looking for something that's really just going to be fun, you are not going to get bored playing this tank. I have a lot of battles in this tank, and it is my favorite tier 9 tank in my garage currently, and probably will be forever. It is one of the best tanks you can probably pick up for your money, and 10,000 gold is not expensive in my opinion, especially for a tier 9 tank. And I would definitely suggest to pick up this tank because it's cheap, it's a premium, so you're going to earn credits, and they're not going to nerf it because it is a premium. Now, of course, Wargaming could, go out of their way to make it a collector and then nerf it, but I honestly feel this tank is never going to be touched, and it's a very fun tank if you do pick it up. Hope you guys did enjoy this video though. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. And if you haven't subscribed already, make sure to do that as well. It really helps me out, helps this channel grow. I noticed that 48% of my viewers are not subscribed, so I'm really hoping to get that number down. But I hope you guys really do enjoy my content. And if you have any questions or any future suggestions for videos, either join my Discord and direct message me, or ask me in the server there, or ask me questions in the comments down below. I always make sure to read the comments. but I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. And if you want to help me out on Patreon, because Wargaming still has decided not to respond back to me on getting a contributor account, make sure to let me know, if you want to be a patron or anything like that. I'll have it linked in the description down below. And other than that, guys, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the future.